how everyone's doing and any questions. Maybe we could do that while we're waiting on some more people to join us. Any general questions you guys want to throw out there while we're just waiting a couple more minutes? So one thing I will do is put in contact Margarita and Anya. I don't know if you guys have ever met each other before, but Margarita is in the process of trying to do some translation of the materials into Portuguese. And Anya is in Berlin and is beginning to work on translating some of the materials into German. So you might want to know each other just as you're going along the way and seeing if there's any kinds of issues you come up with. So that's good to know.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, of course. I would have a question, by the way. I just double checked, but I felt like submitting the workshop I'm having in Berlin on Saturday, but it would tell me I wouldn't have access. Is that correct? Did I do the wrong
Did you?
path? Did I use the wrong path, or isn't that the area where we
Yeah.
are supposed to?
Yeah. My guess is that as we're documenting our procedures, the one procedure that we probably need to add is after somebody becomes a certified facilitator, change their status in the database from an FIT to a certified facilitator, because most pages you can get to whether you're either one, but a page like that you can only get to if you're a facilitator. So we just haven't toggled that switch. We'll do that afterwards. Thank you for raising it.
Thank you. And talk anytime, Margarita.
Okay, great. Hey, Frankie, good to see you.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hey.
Okay, so one of the things we'll go ahead and get started. One of the things I'll mention, because I'm just crawling out of my seat with excitement. I'm at the top of my resilience zone. We completed our first training this morning of a group of folks that are affiliated with the UNESCO Mahatma Gandhi Institute. And we're in the process of working on a long-term project with them where we are going to be training youth defined by them as 18 to 35-year-olds in their partner countries through their partner organizations that work in country with youth. And we're going to be not only directly training online, but doing trainings in person and doing facilitator trainings for their partners. And so this morning, which is just a kind of a pilot, we had people from, it was the first time we've taught a course where not one person was from North America. It was India, Pakistan, Jordan, Tanzania, South Africa, and Nepal. So it was very exciting to get that underway. And so we'll keep you guys posted on that as it develops, but we're kind of quickly adding different countries and different regions of the world to our work together. So hopefully that will create some additional opportunities for everyone. And we'll, once we can, in the next week or so, we're probably going to be putting out a press release, but hopefully as you do your marketing, that will provide an opportunity for you to, one more seal of approval, having UNESCO as an organization that's kind of given their seal of approval to what we're doing and is taking it on to roll it out. So we're very excited about that. And speaking of marketing, I will just say that I want to share my screen for a second. Through some good feedback from facilitators during facilitator training, we've created a new little part of the website. So if you go to the facilitator login and you go to the course materials, so which is right here, the screen that I already have up, you'll see that we added this section at the bottom called Marketing Support Materials. If you click on Marketing Support Materials, and this is all in English at this point, so I apologize, but it gives you links to 3 different documents. The first is a customizable flyer that our marketing department put together, and and you can download it and look at it. But basically, it's a flyer that has all of the standard information, and then at the bottom it has a grid, a text box where you can replace the text that's in there with your name and your course. So you can say facilitator Pam Lewis is putting on a course at this location at this time for these hours, and then you can either print that and put it up places, you can turn it into a PDF and email it to people, but that way you have a one sheet little flyer that is customized with your information. The other thing we put here, even though it's in another place on the website, is our CIT brochure, which is that 2-page color PDF that's not changeable at this point, but is something that you can also share with people that has a little bit more data on it. And then lastly, we put up a Word document of testimonials that we've been collecting. And you can pull from this, and we've divided them into kind of general testimonials, but also specific testimonials for different groups. So K through 12 teachers, incarcerated individuals, formerly incarcerated individuals, parents, and we'll continue to expand on that as you share with us some of the wonderful testimonials that you're going to collect, but also as we gather more testimonials. And then what you can do from that is you can pull from that those that you like and either put them in an email to somebody or put them on in a flyer or something that will help you market. So we're going to dedicate this part of the website to those kinds of materials that as we continue to expand, hi Kate, as we continue to expand this part of the website, we will add more resources. As you go through these things and you say, well, this doesn't really work for me, I need more area to customize, or I wish I had testimonials in this format, or I wish I had something different, whatever it might be, just get that information to us, and then we'll work with our marketing team to come up with as many materials as you guys feel you need in order to successfully get the program out there. Kate.
This looks great. Which link do I go to get to this customizable flyer?
Yes. So if you go to the course materials, it's listed right there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Any questions on the marketing materials before we? Okay, great. Yeah, continue to get that feedback, because that was our marketing department, as you guys probably already know, is fantastic. And somebody on one of the facilitator calls said, hey, it'd be great if we had a customizable flyer. And within 48 hours, I think we had this already prepared. So don't be afraid to ask. While we're here, I'll mention a couple other things before turning it over to Jen, is that we, as mentioned in our last call, we have updated the facilitator guide. And as you can see next to it, it says major update. And the reason it's a major update is that the biggest update is that we've just divided all the materials into its own skill. So the first, maybe third or half of the manual is all of the introductory material that you need to know for the whole course and how to facilitate the whole course. But then we've broken it into skill 1, skill 2, skill 3, so that way you can go just to that skill and print everything you need for just that skill. If you're going in to teach something, you'll have it available to you right there. So we wanted to alert everyone to that. And then the other thing is, if we click on the PowerPoint presentations, you'll see that we're starting to, not only, as you might have noticed, each of the presentations has a date in the file name. And that's the date at which it was updated. So when you go out to facilitate, it would be good for you just to check that it's the correct date. But we are going to start indicating next to each one when it was last updated. And a couple of them we're going through now and just tweaking them. And so many of them are kind of minor. If they're minor updates, we probably won't update the training video. But if they're more major updates, then we will. And so we'll continue to put down when the changes have made. Some of the updates, for example, that we've been making are just making the notes more robust, which will make it easier for you guys to facilitate. So as we have time now, we're going through and doing that. So that wouldn't change the video, of course, but it will change just the notes, and you can download those and print those. Any questions on that before I move to another topic in the same category? Okay, so one thing that you'll notice is the some of the changes that are made are being made because it's just we find it easier to facilitate, or like we've pulled out some complex material and just made it a little bit more simple to navigate, simple to explain, kinds of things that we're learning both as we facilitate it, but as we get feedback from you guys as facilitators. But then there are other things that we're changing as the research changes. And so one of the things that we're changing, it hasn't been posted yet, but we're finalizing it now, is we are going to change skill 5. One of the things that we've been monitoring for the last year has been critiques to the implicit association test and the concept of implicit bias. And what we found over researching that and reading the latest research on that is that it just has a lot of issues in terms of the validity of the research. And particularly, it's about what the IAT is measuring compared to what is actually the claims of what it's measuring. And so what we've done is we've realized that we don't even need the IAT in order to communicate and teach impartiality and common humanity, because the underlying concepts are really the same, which is that we construct categories, we superficially label people in those categories, and we identify certain categories as good, other ones as bad, and others as neutral. And so there are other concepts that we are going to add that will help in that, which are things like something that's talked about in the manual, but we don't expand on it much, which is psychological essentialism. And then there's other things that we talk about, such as correspondence bias or fatal attribution error. And these are things that have big names, but they're pretty simple. And so we will add those slides as we're explaining it, and add a new training video to help you guys explain it to your participants. But what we want to do is make sure that you guys are not never, but likely not to be in a position where you're teaching this and somebody says, hey, I'm a psychologist and researcher and I know the literature on this, and that's just wrong, or that's highly contested, and you may have noticed, if you've been keeping up, that we've been kind of backing away from it slowly, and we just, with the latest research, decided that we can get the same point across without it being potentially difficult for you guys to explain, and also is based on the latest research. Any quick questions on that? You'll have to dig in more as we get, I don't want to take up too much time here, but you'll get into it when we get into the training videos and all that kind of stuff. So that's a good reason why we want to continue. We really ask you guys to continue to keep up with the latest presentations and the latest information, is that part of where we can be a resource to you guys is to be staying on top of that research and making sure that you guys have the information you need to be effective. So Jennifer, I'm going to turn it over to you and cover some of the other items on the agenda.
Alrighty then. I'm going.
Jennifer's a little sick, so we're
A
gonna.
little under the weather. Okay, so some of the other stuff on our agenda. So congratulations, because some of them are on the call, to the folks who are finishing up the most recent facilitator courses that we were hosting. We've got a lot of folks, Judy's like, yes! We got a lot of folks who are finishing up and getting all of their final CEs edited and revised, and then finishing up their contemplative practices. So we're really excited to see them coming out and finishing their stuff and being able to facilitate CIT in various parts of the US and the country, or the world, because we've got margaritas in Portugal, and we've got folks in all sorts of different parts of the US. So we're also trying to get folks connected to each other. So at the beginning of the call, Michael connected Anya and Margarita, who are both in Europe and doing different translations of the manual in different languages. So trying to make those connections and see that people are getting the information that they need to get, as well as finding the people that they need to talk to or want to talk to and work with in different areas of the country and the world. So one of the things that we're hoping to do with that is we have created a Facebook page. Now, I will speak from the eye here. I do not do social media. Social media is not my thing. I have a Facebook page. I can't remember the last time I was on it or updated it. Somebody said something to me about, oh, I sent you a happy birthday wish. And I'm like, you did? They're like, yeah, I sent it on Facebook. And I'm like, oh, that probably would have been helpful somewhere around my birthday to check Facebook. And I haven't. And that was back in February. So clearly I haven't been on Facebook in a while. But we are attempting to do a group of facilitators and facilitators in training through Facebook. Now, Michael, you'll have to, because you set it up, do we have to send them invitations?
So there's two ways to do it. One is here, I'll show you. This is our Facebook page, which we've had for a while. Unfortunately, we don't really use it much. We're talking to some folks about maybe helping with that. But, and my internet is very slow right now. And here's where we like post articles and pictures and stuff like that. But within that, we have a group, and we can create multiple groups over time, but we have the CIT facilitators group. And as you can see, there's only about 3 people in this group right now because we were just testing it out. But the idea of the group is we'll send you all invites. You can also request an invite if we, for some reason, don't have you on Facebook or don't know who your friend, we don't have a way of connecting with you. You can go to Compassionate. You can just, I think you can just not Google, but search on Facebook for CIT Facilitators Group and then request an invite, or come to the Compassionate Integrity page and, whoops, that's not what I meant. Come to this Compassionate Integrity page and then click on that groups. And then once you click on the groups, you can request an invite. In the meantime, as many people as we can find, we'll go ahead and send you those requests. And so what we're going to do is we're going to test this out for a few months and see how it works. And I know some people are a little skittish of Facebook. I totally don't blame you, but it's a quick way of getting us out there, and given everything else we have on our plate right now, instead of creating a solution out there from scratch or trying to manage something from scratch, I think we're going to try this and see how it goes for a few months.
Mm-hmm. And that will also help all of you being able to build a community and ask questions and hopefully get answers and information in a timely fashion from your colleagues. So it's not just from me or from Michael, it's being able to get that from your colleagues who may be out facilitating that information in their areas, in their communities. So that's another tool to be able to connect facilitators and facilitators in training. I am working on cleaning up what we call the system. So, it's, it's an entity unto itself. So anybody who has gone through CIT facilitator training or has been a part of it is in what we call the system. So those of you who are finishing up your stuff, you know that you go into your dashboard and you have all this information. Well, we have folks in that system who haven't done anything for their facilitator training. So in the next couple of weeks, everybody's going to be getting an email from me. And basically it'll have some general information. I'll probably include a link to a Google form so that you can complete, like, yes, I'm still interested in finishing my facilitator training. I've done X number of CEs. I'm working on this. Because we have folks in there that haven't even seen the dashboard because they've been in the system for so long that the dashboard was created after they were put in the system. So going through and cleaning that up. So when you get that email from me, please respond. I mean, I'll give you a deadline, but there will be a point where I say, if I don't hear from you by such and such a date, I will delete you from the system. Now, if I've been having communications with you, even if I don't hear from you, the chances of me deleting you from the system are slim because I've been communicating with you. But it's so much easier to be able to say, well, we deleted everybody as of such and such a date that didn't respond to the email. So I really just want to know who's still interested, and then I can sort of tailor some training opportunities for those folks who are still interested. So if we have folks who are interested but still just need like a friend or an accountability partner, or in some cases a kick in the butt to finish up, then I can do that. I can be a friend, I can be an accountability partner, or I can assign you one, or I can...
Good at kicking people in the butt.
I was just going to say, or I'm really good at kicking people in the butt. So either way, it's fine with me. I have multiple tools in my toolbox for that. So I just wanted to give everybody the heads up that we're going to be cleaning up that system. And so when you get the email from me, you know what it's about. The other thing is we're going to be rotating our call. So we've been meeting at 12:30 for the past 3 or 4 months. And so what I'm going to attempt to do is each quarter, we're going to change the time because not everybody who has gone through facilitator training is in a time zone that 12:30 Eastern works for them. So we are going to try to, for example, we have somebody in Australia who emailed me and said, well, it's like 2 a.m. my time, so I'm probably not going to be able to join us. Okay, good to know. I told them they were a slacker, but that's fine. I'm kidding, I did not. It was Mahesh, for those who, it was Mahesh. He's like, I will be sleeping at that time, Jennifer. Like, okay, no problem, Mahesh. So what I'll probably do is rotate on a quarterly basis so that we are not confused by, wait a minute, it's an even month and therefore it's going to be at this time, or it's an odd month or whatever. So for July, August, and September, all of the calls will be at the same time. I just haven't decided what that time will be yet. Because we have a group from Europe and New Zealand and Australia, I will probably try to find something that will work for both of them, or at least a large majority of those folks as well. So just keep your eyes and ears open for the email that'll come out with the time frame for the July, August, and September calls. Those were my major agenda items. I did get an email or two from folks asking if we would have time for questions. And of course, we always have time for questions on these calls. So one of the questions was getting out in the community and facilitating CIT. That seems to be a recurring theme. So I didn't know if anybody wanted to share some ideas, thoughts, or insights, or if there were specific questions that you had that we might be able to answer, or that other facilitators who are out there doing facilitation in their community might be able to answer.
And I'll just share a quick story for those, as you're thinking of those questions that some of you have heard, but there's an organization in town where we were able to go in and do a full training for, but they at least were familiar with the work that we were doing. And then there was an area of the organization, a totally different area of the organization, that was having some issues around sensitivity and diversity and stuff. And so they contacted us and said, would you guys be able to address some of those issues? And we said, and they said, these are people who are only part-time. We can't do a full 10 weeks. We can't do 20 hours. Is there something you can do that's smaller than that? So we said, yes, we think that we can, if they can cover the first 3 to 4 skills, that would do a lot towards helping them with issues of sensitivity and how they treat others and things like that. And so we went in and we organized 2 half-day workshops, 4 hours each. And the goal was to cover as much of self-cultivation as possible. And we went in, we didn't give them manuals, we just printed the exercises for those sections. And it was interesting because we went in, and when we were introducing ourselves, we said, well, we know there's been some issues, and so this is, and they're like, well, we're not sure what issues you're talking about. So the guy who organized it was there. I'm like, oh, I didn't know he didn't share that with you. Okay. So they basically, and then they said, well, we thought we were just here because we were in trouble. So this was a group that was very resistant. And it was the first time I really was with a group that was unilaterally like that. So I was like, okay, this is going to be tough. And really, I didn't even really lead the training. For those of you who know Leanne Rubenstein and Sue Gilman here in Atlanta, they're 2 facilitators, and I was just there to kind of kick it off because I had the relationship, but they ran it themselves. So it wasn't like I had some knowledge that enabled me to do something. They did it. By the end of the first day, they were saying, these people in the training were loving it. They were talking about how important it is. They were saying how everybody in the organization needs to take the training. By the end of the second day, they were saying they wanted to take the full training, and it was really unanimous. And so I just, I say that story to encourage you, number one, to get your foot in the door any way you can, right? Even if it's to say, I'll give you a 1-hour session on CIT that has some element of value to you, even if it's just a 30-minute overview and a 30-minute talking about resourcing or talking about the empathy line or some short activity to give people a taste of it. And if we do it right, it will create interest, and it'll be then, well, how about a couple of half-day workshops, and then how about a full course? So I really suggest and encourage everyone to give that a shot in any organization that you can, if you have access to. So with that, I'll open it up now for questions.
Judy?
I Sorry, I got on late. My computer was very strange. But anyway, I have a very bottom line question of, I wanted to put together like a flyer and maybe a business card, something to just send to people if they ask for it or whatever. And I don't know what I should put on it. Should I put on it? Well, what would you suggest in terms of just like the
In terms of your title?
yeah, like the credentials, I guess. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
credentials. I mean, eventually you'll be a level 1 certified facilitator that's what I would do. I think that's the simplest thing to do. One of the things that another one of our great facilitators in training suggested was also like a little stamp that just kind of marks the credentials that we can come up with. And I asked our marketing department about this too, but something that you can just put on there. And as while it doesn't carry the kind of brand recognition that we want it to yet, with things like this UNESCO thing and announcements like that and our partnership with the Charter for Compassion, hopefully more and more people will have heard of it. But yeah, so I would do level 1 certified facilitator and or you can just say certified facilitator if you don't want to designate it as level 1. You could put certified facilitator, and then eventually maybe we'll have a little stamp or something that you can put on there. That's kind of like intel inside.
And then like underneath that or above it, putting the Center for Compassionate Integrity
Yeah, I don't know if you were on. I'll show this just briefly on the. Just pull it up here quickly.
We have a customizable flyer. That's what he's pulling up, Judy.
Oh, good.
Marketing created a customizable flyer for us.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so I'll share
That's
that real
helpful.
quickly. And as I mentioned earlier, you guys can we can continue to make changes to this. We can have, as far as I'm concerned, we can have 10 versions of it. Clearly, eventually, for different places, we're going to need to have multiple languages. But this is just a Word document, and some of it is images, so you can't change it easily. But this section down at the bottom,
Okay.
for you to customize.
Oh, great.
This is where you can write, like what's in there is just sample text, but you can write that, and that way you can then save this as a PDF, and you can email it to people, or you can print it and put it up in, a community center or wherever it is that you're going to be doing the teaching or around town.
Oh, good. Excellent. And that's available now?
Yeah, it's available now. I'll just show it again since we were talking about it. But if you go to the if you go to facilitator login, facilitator course materials, under marketing support materials, which is a new link as of this week. It has both. It has the flyer, it has our brochure, and it has testimonials you can use. So
oh, neat.
You can pull from that too as you're sharing it with people that you're trying to get in the door with.
Perfect. Thank you.
We're also in the process of updating the brochure because there's a section for partners and people that we've worked with. So we're updating that as well. And something that marketing is working on for us is a smaller version. So not the whole brochure, not the two-sided brochure, because I've had opportunities to go out and talk to people about CIT, and I don't even have a business card that I can.
Yeah.
So marketing is working on creating something smaller. I don't know if it'll be a quarter page, like a postcard size, or a half page, something that, well, okay, so apologies to the men in the room, that as a woman I could have in my purse and I can just, pull out and share with somebody. If I know I'm going to be at an event, I have something. A business card might be a little too small because I'm sure there's so much more information that we need to put on versus a business card, but they're creating something else for us too, that we can just have something a little bit smaller that we can share with folks.
That's excellent. That's what I was wondering about. Oh, good. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
And along those same lines, while you're in the middle of doing the spiel, is there a logo that's available if we wanted to just pop that on like a website or something that has, certified facilitator to go along with the logo?
So I was asking marketing about a logo, and so far, the only thing they came up with was the little thing in the, like, here, I'll show this. The only thing they came up with was this little thing in the corner here, which is not really a logo, but it's just something that's in line with the branding of the center and stuff like that. But I'll go back to them again and see if there's anything that's a little bit more identifiable. Is that what you're talking about? Something like that?
Well, I'm in the car, so I can't
Oh.
see, but just something, I'm sorry. And I apologize for the background noise. It's like pouring and we're driving. And yeah, so anyway, just something that, we wrote on our website, certified facilitator, and then had like the
Yep.
CIT logo. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, that is something we're working on with marketing. So I'll let you know.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. And we've shared in the chat box some links to the group, the Facebook group. So if people who were having trouble finding it, you can click on that and request access if you haven't already. Any other questions? Hey.
So I'm on technology tonight, and so it looks like I'm just breaking
We want to go.
breakout rooms for like 10 people in each room. Is that correct?
Yeah, we can. Why don't we stay on afterwards and talk about that, since that's not just a
That'd be great.
general
Thanks.
kind of conversation. Great.
Nothing else? It's a quiet group today. Go
I think
ahead.
Judy had one more.
You can unmute and share, Judy.
Wait, you're still muted.
Can you unmute, Judy?
There we go.
There we go.
Hi. So you addressed it a little bit when I got on the call about, giving people a taste of the class, or, formatting it in different ways. But I guess I'm just a little unclear thinking it through the way that we did it. I'm stuck in this groove of the way that we did it. So, we had one skill, and then we spent a week on that skill ourselves, doing the practices, doing the engagement. Well, I guess we don't have to do the engagement for the CIT, but anyway, just practicing it and then coming back and doing the next one. So say we do a 4-hour thing. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the different ways of doing this. Like, if I offered it, say, in 2 half days, would you just like do a skill and then a little break and then hop into the next skill? And
Yeah, so I think what you're touching on is the issue of, well, there's no practice time, right?
Right.
That is an issue, and that's something that you don't get if you do these other formats. But there's also the other side of it, which is, well, if people won't commit to the full 10 weeks, then we get nothing, right? And so what we did with this other group was, we did on a Thursday from 10 to 2, we did skills 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And on Friday from 10 to 2, we did the 3 and 4. And so it's not ideal. It's not what you are hoping for in terms of the long-term practice, but
Mm-hmm.
it does communicate a lot of the ideas, and we do provide the practices to them, both
Mm-hmm.
in written form and on the website. And so ideally, that's just a way of getting in the door, and then it then expands into a fuller course.
Okay. So we do what we can.
We do what we can.
We do what we can.
And it's the kind of thing where if you're offering this course on say 2 or 3 times a year, what you'll find is that a lot of people will end up taking it many times. So there's an organization that's working to help fund some of our programs. And I brought one of these guys to the prison the other day, and he was sharing with the guys in the prison that this is the 4th time he'll have taken the course. And every time he gets new stuff, and it helps him continue the practices and stuff like that. So it's definitely, having taught it about 1,000 times, I can tell you that it's not something you learn in one time around.
I was doing my last, hopefully, curricular engagement this week, and I had I had an inspiration while I was thinking about, what to put down about about the skill and how it could help a certain situation that I hadn't even thought about before. So, yeah, I definitely can see that. Yeah, I engaged.
It's a good thing.
Thank you.
Okay, any other?
Yeah. I think I was thinking about the foundational concepts. Is it, are we going to, because I was also looking about the first skill, and now it's a lot of, it's introduction, it's the first skill in one class, it's already a lot, I think. And foundational, about the foundational concepts, do you have, I don't know, a presentation before, or you send by email some videos for people to see, something like that?
Yeah, so what we do is we send an email, like for example, this group that we did where we did 2 half days, we didn't even send them the foundational concepts. We didn't want them to come in with any preconceived notions or anything like that, and we referred them to them once we were there. Other groups where you're going into a situation where people know what to expect and are signing up willingly, then what we do is we send them links to those foundational concept videos, and we tell them to please watch them before we start, and then we start with just some question and answers about them. What it used to be is that when we first started the program several years ago, what we would do is we would cover all of those foundational concepts in week 1, and then we would come back in week 2 and do skill 1. So first of all, it made it an 11-week course, which made it even harder to convince people to do the whole thing. But then secondly, what would happen is you'd get together and say, okay, everyone, aren't we excited to change and get to work on all these practices? And you'd go for 2 hours lecturing them about these things. And then you'd say, okay, we're going to get to the practices next week. So now you have a week to do nothing. So we decided, you know what, let's put these in video. And plus they're hard to teach. It's harder to teach for a normal facilitator who hasn't been studying it for that long. So we decided, let's do those smaller videos, and then you can jump right in with a skill in the very first session.
Yeah, thank you. So when
Go ahead.
So when I start a course, I must put on this or your website, right? The dates and so on.
Yes.
And the participants too. That's correct?
Yeah, no, so when you first start the course, all you have to do is there's a place on the website, which I'll show you guys.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you
Yeah,
just submit the name of where you're going to do the course.
Okay.
And that way we're notified that it's coming, and we can market it, help market it, and we can let people know about it. And then at the tail end, when it's time to issue certificates, you would send us a spreadsheet with just the names and email addresses of the participants. And then we can put them in our database, because if they ever want to come do facilitator training, this way we know they're certified, and then we can send you the certificates.
Okay, thank you.
These are good questions.
Practical.
Exactly, I like it.
Yeah, I'm on the translation period, and I think it's only Anya and me are interested in this thing in this group. But anyway, I'm realizing that some image, it will be a bit difficult, because there are always also the, the presentations themselves, the PowerPoint. Anyway, I'm slowing down. We are going to, but also some concepts it's not so easy to translate. Like the first one, self-cultivation. If you translate in Portuguese the same, literally, it's about cultivation of marijuana. It's not a very.
That's what it means. That's what it means in English too.
Auto cultivation. It's cannabis. It doesn't
Well,
work.
you're reminding me of something that I want to do, which is I think what we can do is create a small group of
Yeah.
people doing translations. Some of these things, so the translator of the Spanish language version is much farther along than anyone else. And so she would
Yeah.
be a good resource for you guys. She's oftentimes on the call, but she's not today. So I'm going to connect those people who are working on translations so that we can begin to start to address some of these issues. And also mirror some of it maybe after what they're doing with C-Learning through Emory, where they have small groups in each of these different locations who are readers that can also come back and who are familiar with the course, but can come back and say, well, you know, I don't feel like it really quite captured it, or wow, you captured it beautifully in this, you know, or suggest other translations, things like that.
Mhm.
So I'll put that on my list of things to follow up on.
Yeah. Great, great.
Yeah, Maite, sorry. I remember we had that discussion once with, I forgot his name. Jennifer, help me. The nice Irish guy living in Madrid. Yeah, Shane, sorry.
That's okay.
It's a lot about code switching as well. We had that discussion because people in Germany function differently in certain respects. So while compassion and integrity is very much associated with our Christian culture, it's not what we are actually talking about in CIT. I mean, obviously there's a connection, but since it's secular ethics, I'm thinking a lot, and I think this is where we all can connect, Margarita, and also the nice Spanish translator I met once, and we can discuss those things, those cultural differences we have to keep in mind, because it's not just a translation, but it's code switching, I suppose.
Yes, very much so. And I think, and that'll come down to even some of the images that we use and things like that, that maybe, and this is going to become even bigger for those who, you know, didn't hear about our work starting today with UNESCO, as we bring in other places such as India and Jordan and places like that, that are also going to want to do translations and stuff. It's going to become a bigger issue. So, so this, you know, reminds me not only to connect everyone, but maybe, dare I say, create a sub Facebook group where people who are doing this work in different parts of the world can communicate about issues such as this. So thank you, Anya, for that. Any other final questions?
I have a question. If we do the taste of, or you know, skill 1, do you recommend printing out just the materials from the facilitator guide and putting that into a little packet, or how do you go about that if it's not the whole program?
So if you haven't done, oh, you're I keep forgetting you're not online. So under course materials, not facilitator course materials, but under just the regular course materials, there's a section called download materials. Under download materials, there is something that's called manual writing exercises. And as opposed to, now that I'm reading it, that could sound like writing exercises that you do manually. They're actually the writing exercises from the manual. And so this is a collection of all of the writing exercises throughout the whole manual, just collected into one PDF. So this was created for those people who either want to use the online version of the manual and not get a whole manual, and so that way they could just print out what they needed to write on. But it's also used there for your purposes. So if you're going into, you can download that and you can just print out pages, say 6 to 10, which maybe covers skill 1, and then make photocopies of that and hand that out as a packet, like you just suggested. And what we did actually was we didn't even we handed them out only when it was time to do the exercise. So we were in the course for an hour and a half, and then we were like, okay, now it's time to do a resourcing exercise. We explained it, and then we handed out one sheet of paper to everybody. And on the front was the writing activity. On the back was the mindful dialogue activity. Does that help?
Okay, that makes sense. Yes, thank you.
Great.
And then another question I had was that if we have a limited time, like if we don't have the full 2 hours for whatever reason, can we just reach out to you and you could give us like advice on which items to cut, whether it be one of the group activities or a breakout or something?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
thank
definitely.
you.
Sure. Any other
Yeah,
questions?
this is exactly, I'm sorry, this is
ahead.
exactly the problem I will have on Saturday, because it's an annual meeting of the German-speaking Association for Positive Psychology, and they have usually 30-minute slots. So they gave me a 45-minute slot in order to give an overview for CIT, and I'm really giving a sort of complex overview already, because I really feel like teasing, and there's so much interesting information I don't want to renounce, but so I'm ending up with 15 minutes in order to introduce tracking, body language for firstly, secondly tracking, thirdly grounding, and fourthly resourcing. And since those are 60 people in the room, I couldn't even do what we usually do and ask everybody. So I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to pick out just one or two people and we just give an example and move on, because it's not the real experience anyway. But I don't want to renounce any of those parts. But yeah, as we were talking about marketing and giving teasers, sometimes we won't have sufficient time in order to do things properly. So I'm sort of making exactly that discussion. What would you, what advice would you give, Michael or Jennifer or whatever, everybody?
I would, if it was me, I would keep the explanation of what CIT is to 5 minutes, literally, and just say, this is a 10-part training program that covers self, relationship with others, and systems. And we do it all through, based on science, and it's really focused in on the practices that we need to change the way we are in all of those areas. And so in order to tease that out, I want to just give you one quick example. And this is skill one. And then talk briefly about the nervous system, and then go right into tracking and resourcing. And you could skip, if you needed to, you could skip grounding and just do tracking and resourcing and say, tracking, here's the resilience zone. And in order to help with that resilience zone, what keep us in the resilience zone when we go out, et cetera, we use techniques like tracking and resourcing, and explain what tracking is, but then just say, before we even do tracking, I want to help you understand resourcing, because that's how we do tracking, and just go into resourcing. And then, and you could just pick out one person and help them come up with a resource, and then just hand out a piece of paper, the English version of that part of the manual to everyone to do on their own. But that would be an opportunity, and if they have a little bit of time, they can actually work on that resource while you kind of guide everyone through it. And that's probably all you're going to have time for once you get into questions and stuff like that. And then people who are interested in it will go find the information, give them the website and all that kind of stuff, or hand them something they can read about it. But I would spend very little time explaining what the program is, and more time, the more time you can spend having them do the practice, the better it will turn out. I don't know if that's helpful, but.
Yeah, a little bit helpful, a little bit confusing as well, because I'm short of doing this. Well, I think what I found very interesting at the beginning is the 3-in-3 method, and I feel like introducing the 3 blocks and the 3 levels of learning. So, and this is, I mean, all that sums up already to 20 minutes. So it is at
Well,
least
you don't.
20.
Yeah, what I'm saying though is that you don't. And so for those who don't know Anya, Anya has among other things, a master's in positive psychology. So Anya knows a lot about this area. And so one of the things I worry about is I don't think you need to go into too much detail, right? And you're talking to an audience that is going to know a lot. So you're probably going to feel compelled to explain a lot. But I wouldn't do that. I would just say, I think the 3 and 3 model is great. And just say, this is the way, we deal with these 3 different domains and we do it in these 3 different ways. And literally that shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes. And then say, I want to give you an example of what I mean by that. The very first skill is calming body and mind. And here's the received knowledge. I'm going to tell you about the resilient zone. And I'm going to tell you about the autonomic nervous system. And now I'm going to go into the critical insight portion of this, which is we're going to do an activity together. And that activity together is called a resourcing and tracking. And then you can bring one person up to demonstrate that. And then again, walk them through the exercise themselves. And while they're doing that, they should come to an aha moment, right? Like, wow, yeah, that my body changed when I was paying attention to this random person's story, or when I started to bring to mind my own resource. And then you say the third thing is practice. So I've given you a valuable tool here. And what I'd like you to do is start using it, practice it, track, if you're driving to work, you're sitting in a meeting, track how your body's doing and focus on those pleasant or neutral sensations. And then continue to write about your resource and think about your resource and try to use that. And that's the third component, which is practice. So I think you can, as you can tell, I am the worst at this, right? Because I give you a 30-minute answer to a 1-minute question. So it's not, I'm coming at this from my own experience of going on too long. But brevity is going to be the most important thing here. And I think you really can convey all 3 areas and all 3 levels using that example in 50 minutes.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Anybody else?
Another practical question
Yes.
about feedback from the participants. Do you want to follow your questionnaire, or we are going to have one for us?
Yeah, so again, I'll share this. If you go here to facilitator login, if you go to the facilitator course materials, it says feedback form link. So if you click on that, it says copy and paste the following text into an email. So you can, cut and paste this as a link to your participants, and then that will give them access to the feedback form. And then what you can do is you can let us know, because that won't automatically go to you yet, but if you let us know, we can then share with you what the feedback is.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Michael, could I ask a question about dates, like when the next facilitator online training will be, for one thing? I'm hoping to be starting the training in September, and I just wondered when those people might be able to do the facilitator training.
Yeah, it sounds like if you're doing it in September, it may be January when they would have their next course.
Okay.
Because I think the next online facilitator training will be in September.
Oh,
so it would
okay.
be kind of concurrent with what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Okay. And what about the next online non-facilitator training? When will that be?
So we're also looking to schedule that around September as I look at Jennifer's face. We're trying to get better, as you know, Pam, we've been very kind of entrepreneurial about how we schedule these things, and we're trying to get a little bit more disciplined. So we're looking to schedule sometime in September, both another online training and a facilitator training. The good news is that hopefully we're going to have more facilitators who can help us with these online trainings, and then we're going to be able to schedule them on a more regular basis, because obviously Jennifer and I only have so much bandwidth to be able to do it, but we should have additional bandwidth coming online pretty soon, so that, because we're going to have online trainings for UNESCO as well as just our regular ones. So
great, thanks.
Could you let us know how the coaching program is going?
Yeah, so from what I know, I don't know if anyone on this call is in the cohort, but I think from what I've spoken to Teresa, and from what I've heard from Teresa is that it's going very well, but we're actually about to send out a survey. We're going to send out 2 surveys. One is to the people in the program to get their feedback now that it's about halfway through the 3-month pilot. And we'll get their feedback on how effective they feel like it is. And then we're also going to send a survey out to everyone who's taken CIT, who received the previous emails, to just gauge interest. Because I will tell you, we didn't get overwhelming interest in it. We got enough to fill a cohort. But part of that, excuse me, may have just been the time of day. It might have been the expense. We don't really know. And so part of the evaluation process is going to be sending out a survey to everybody and say, is this something you'd be interested in? And if you didn't take it the first time, why didn't you take it, with some questions they can answer. And so hopefully we'll gauge interest in that in the next month by the end of the pilot. But from talking to Teresa and from just anecdotally hearing from some people who are in that program, they've gotten a lot out of it and they've really enjoyed it. So I think we're at our hour. And so if anyone has additional questions, please feel free to email us. As you know, we try our best to get to everyone as quickly as we can. Join our Facebook group, and we'll keep our conversation going that way. Thank you very much for joining us. Any last words, Jennifer?
No. Thank you all. Then for those of you who are still finishing up your stuff, we will have some feedback to everybody. The review folks who have done their reviews, and like for things that have been reviewed, I'm hoping to get in on Wednesday and do all the ones that have been reviewed. So if you've gone in and made changes to yours and you haven't let me know that, you can just shoot me an email so then I know who's to go in and take a look at. We should have hopefully all the CEs reviewed by the end of this week, all the new ones that have come in, as well as the reviews. So fingers crossed.
Okay, so I think Kate is going to stay on with me and Jennifer just to cover something about the online course, and then we can stop recording and we can say goodbye to everyone else. Hi, Susan, by the way, you came late, but we wanted to say hi to you. Thanks, everybody.